I think some of our fears are coming to realization as we move into the sixth episode of Wonder Egg Priority. Yeah, this is a full on spoiler discussion impressions on the sixth episode of Wonder Egg Priority. So if you have not watched that series, go watch it, first of all. But second of all, you might want to avoid this episode to avoid spoilers of any kind. But yeah, it's, like I said, going in the direction that I was kind of hoping not. But at the same time, it hasn't realized all of my fears. Of course, my fears of the last episode that I did impressions on was the idea that Koito had killed herself because she was jealous of how much Shuichiro liked Ai, and or she perceived that he liked Ai. But it technically is only realized the idea that Ai, in fact, has a crush on Shuichiro. So at least it hasn't come out and said it, but we've had a quick, kind of inner, I guess, Im- image of Shuichiro looking a little bit, handsomey and the cool glow in the hair and everything, a little artistic looking, but. And then her deciding randomly that she wants to run and find him so that she can tell him that she's going back to school. So, yeah, we'll see what that ends up doing. That's like the least of my fears, really. Like I said, I think most of my fears in the idea of Koito having ended her own life because of her jealousy, and that always brings up some really hurtful emotions in that regard. But yeah, let's rewind. I just jumped straight to the ending because I love these. I'm seeing a pattern of them doing the cliffhangers, and that's always painful when you have a week to wait. But yeah, with the beginning of the episode opened up with I fighting some. They're not Xenos. They call the little dudes with the knives Xenos in this dream world. They are the new type that rip off their masks and become, I guess, kind of advanced. They're called haters, and they had called them haters, and that their property is hatred and envy or envy and spite for the girls as they spend too much time in this world. They start to evolve and target the girls. So this seems to be another kind of indication this is a ongoing thing. The Wonder Egg priority system itself is something that has been done in the past, that Aka and Uraka have had experience with other girls doing this whole process. And it also was added to it that they gave them a new weapon to use in this world, which is in a pomander or a pendant that they give the girls that hatches and creates a familiar that will impression onto them and then fight in this other world. And so, like I said, again, that kind of indicates the idea that there's other girls that have done this in the past, and these girls are kind of reaching this level of more difficult Xenos that are called haters, and that they need these new pendants or familiars to fight them in this other world. After that whole process, they had Ai's mother came out in a dinner with Shuichiro and I to announce that they are planning on dating and they want to get her approval of it. And of course, as typical, they say, I don't have anything to do with it. Do whatever you want. She said that specifically that she's not going to take care of them in the future and she's going to stick them in a home. But yeah, when I brings this up to the rest of the girls, it kind of brings up a heated fight because Momoe is happy at the idea. She's like, well, I'll pretty much be sisters, and that's great. And Rika is, of course, still kind of pinning the idea that, look, this guy could still be at fault for Koito's death. He could just be using this as a guise to get closer to Ai because he likes Ai. And, of course, that did not go well with Shuichiro's niece, which is Momoe. And so it seemed like we were having a little bit of a falling out in the group itself, but we'll see if that ends up being something that sticks around for any time longer. But other than that, yeah, like towards the later parts of it, they of course hatched their familiars. Eyes was like a lizard or like a gecko, and it like just ate ate the haters. And of course, Ura and Uraka and Aka decided to, or mentioned the idea that they they feed off these haters, so that's what makes them a really good tool. So they'll go in his other world, hatch their familiar. The familiar will eat the haters, and the girl can go and can kind of focus on the boss, so to speak. And that's kind of what I did. Something I missed or forgot to mention at the very beginning, the girl that I was protecting, she can see dead people, and then she was admitted to a hospital because they thought that she was crazy, and there she pretty much killed herself because she was seeing so many horrific things in the hospital. And at the very beginning, the girl gets hurt, and as Ai is kind of locked up in a room because the haters are attacking, Akka mentions, put her back in her egg and she'll recover. And so this is kind of an interesting new element they've added to the system, is that if, they're, doing a terrible job protecting the tragic girl, or in this particular dream world, or the hatched egg, they can put him back in it so they can recover. So that's what I did, and then all this stuff transpired, and then she went back to fight him again later on with the familiar. But yeah, towards the later parts, we had a whole segment where I was... And it's odd because in the fight itself, she recalled Shuichiro, and that's why I said we had that kind of more Fabio-looking scene with Shuichiro. So obviously she was thinking about him during this kind of really dire point in her fight. And the next scene, after she defeated the boss and she's taking a bath, her mom comes in and says, don't lay your stuff everywhere, and I'm going to put the pendant here that's in your pocket. And she freaks out, jumps out, runs, or she gets clothed, runs in the rain all the way to the school, and ends up confronting Shuichiro, where it almost like it's total bait. They were totally playing it out like they're going to have some kind of love confession. Like, Shuichiro's talking about how beautiful the sky is, and there's that whole Kira kind of connotation there. And then Ai's like, Sensei, I want to go back to school. So it's like, I was so dreading that confession. Now, granted, I don't view it the same way a lot of people do with the whole confession stuff. I honestly, a student having some kind of affection towards a teacher is a thing. It's a thing that happens all the time. This is not taboo, or it's taboo in the idea that they reciprocate it. Obviously, that's not right. But I don't see that as a bad thing, that she finds an attraction to him. He's kind of been there as a cornerstone to her recovery. And that was the thing they kept hitting on when they were trying to establish the idea that Ai does like Soichiro, in that he was the one that was with her to show her that she wasn't ugly, that her heterochromia is something beautiful about her, and that even though she's being bullied, that she doesn't need to listen to these people. And again, that goes back to the whole thing with Koito and her possible jealousy, is that he was there as a cornerstone for her and her recovery. And so it's not, a far stretch to believe that she is some kind of attraction to him in that regard. But, there is the hope that it ends up just being simple, and it's just she sees him as a father figure, and we don't go down that rabbit hole, but I'm sure we're going to go down that rabbit hole. That's pretty obvious at this point. But yeah, that was a mean little jab there at the very end, but we'll see where it goes from this point. But yeah, as usual, fantastic animation, a lot of really cool shots in that entire episode. They had this kind of they almost have like a commander room thing going on with Akka and Uraka, so that's weird. They have like a little television screen, and they're now giving them information and insights into what they're fighting. So yeah, we'll see that going forward. I forgot to mention in the last episode, somebody reminded me in the comments that Akka's glasses cracked at some point. I totally missed that, but I need to go back to the 5th episode and find out where I missed that. But yeah, great episode overall. Beautiful, great animation. I like the whole scene where the girl was freaking out and saying that the boss was already there and pulled Ai through a bunch of walls. A lot of brutality happening to Ai in this episode. I was kind of expecting them to cut from this episode, or this fight, to her being like messed up again, and then her having, some kind of hospital scene with Shuichiro coming in and supporting. I totally was thinking that was going to be the next scene, but I guess they're at the point now where they just don't want to acknowledge the fact that the girls are getting beat up and that transfers to the real world anymore. So I guess it's a miss in my eyes. I honestly don't see why they don't really kind of acknowledge that anymore. Maybe because Nero doesn't acknowledge, because Nero's kicking butt, but to show I get that messed up and her not have some kind of sign in the other world is a little weird. But yeah. Hope you guys enjoyed this impression of episode 6 of Wonder Egg Priority. As usual, if you guys like this episode, please leave a comment. Let me know what you thought of the episode. Please subscribe and all that good stuff. And we thank you guys for your support, and y'all take care.